Delta State has placed so much emphasis on the Smart Delta and the Greater Delta agenda. With a population of over 6 million people, describe the healthcare focus of the Delta State government.
Yes, thank you so much for that question. I'd like to begin by thanking His Excellency Senator Dr. Ifeanyi Tokowa for his efforts towards revamping the health sector, in fact, other critical sectors of the economy, particularly the health sector, for which we have witnessed a lot of transformation, policy-wise, and of course, looking at access to healthcare, services in the states. You'll agree with me that since His Excellency came on board as governor in 2015, he was in a hurry to deliver promptly and above board, on his vision. And of course, this lent credence to the first set of bills that he sent to the Delta State House of Assembly. And of course, one of them is a bill for an act for the establishment of the Delta State Contributory Health Commission for the effective running of Delta State Contributory Health Scheme. At that time, I had the honor and privilege to serve as a special assistant to His Excellency the Governor, Special Duties on Contributory Health Commission. So that was at the foundation stage of the Delta State Health Insurance Scheme. And so we did a lot towards laying a very solid foundation for the health insurance. Since then, His Excellency equally identified men and women of impeccable character to drive the scheme. And today we are getting results in the sense that about 20% of Deltans now have access to healthcare through the Delta State Health Insurance Scheme. And so about 1 million enrollees, that we have recorded thus far. And it's on record that Delta State really was the first state to officially kick off its health insurance scheme. Other states have since followed suit. Most of them have come to look at policy papers from Delta State with which to establish their own health insurance. So that is novel in the sense that one thing that can change the dynamics of healthcare all over the world is health insurance. And of course, His Excellency Governor has brought it to the doorstep of Deltans. Of course, this is largely due to the fact that even at the national level, where he was a senator of the Federal Republic from 2011 to 2015, he midwifed a lot of bills, and one of them is a bill for an act to repeal the national health insurance law, and of course, he brought about a bill for the National Health Care Act that has been able to prescribe a lot of funding for basic health care, if you like, the basic healthcare funding program, which states are already benefiting from. This funding is to create a pool of funds with which to effectively run primary healthcare services across the country. And so states are beginning to access the funds through their health insurance schemes, etc. So when he became governor, he felt that there was need to domesticate these laudable healthcare policies in his home state, which is Delta, for which we are getting tremendous results. Now, if you look at the health sector generally, you come to the irresistible conclusion that what we are seeing today is obviously different from what it used to be before His Excellency took up the mantle of leadership. Now, the first move was to encourage the primary healthcare delivery system in the state to be able to enhance their capacity to render healthcare services at that level, because the basic healthcare delivery system is actually at the primary level, globally, etc. And of course, we equally did our best to ensuring that the primary healthcare centers key into the health insurance scheme. And of course, that was achieved by a strategy that was conceived by His Excellency the Governor to bring under one roof the state government through the health insurance, the local government through their parent body, ARGON, and of course the Primary Healthcare Development Agency came under one roof to be able to harmonize these programs and policies with a view to keying effectively into the health insurance scheme. And so we have achieved that. Whilst that was achieved, we looked at strengthening the secondary facilities, where we began the pilot scheme of the health insurance January 2017, etc. We re-strategize and change the concept of the free maternal and child care scheme that of course was run by the previous administration, but it was further strengthened under this administration because it came under the equity plan of the health insurance scheme, you know, etc., for which we have preponderance of the release of health insurance, you know, under that plan. That is the equity plan. Of course, the scheme also extends to the widows now who are currently receiving free health care, you know, through the health insurance scheme. Then, of course, the data, you know, to compile, you know, the list of the physically challenged, etc., who equally come under the equity plan is ongoing per se. So it is a carefully thought out scheme, and you know, the health insurance is on a trajectory for which there are deliverables, etc. Of course, the deliverables are being met per se. So having strengthened the secondary facilities, of course, the tertiary, state-owned tertiary facility effectively strengthened. The federal tertiary facility, which is the Federal Medical Center Asaba, equally keyed in because it is accredited for primary healthcare service under the health insurance. And of course, the private, you know, healthcare facilities, you know, were equally accredited. You know, the viable ones were accredited to be able to key into the health insurance, you know, scheme, etc. You know, so having addressed that and having, you know, created the demand for healthcare, you know, in health economics, you know, we're told that there is the demand side and supply side of healthcare. When you create a demand for healthcare by way of encouraging people to enroll and key into the scheme, for instance, you create a demand, and so there must be a supply side to be able to balance up with demand side. You know, of course, that was probably the reason why His Excellency the Governor thought it wise to create the office of the Senior Special Assistant Governor on Health Monitoring to be able to monitor and evaluate healthcare facilities across the state, which includes primary healthcare centers, secondary facilities, tertiary facilities. The whole idea is to bridge the gap between these recipient facilities and, of course, the enrollees, those who are meant to access healthcare from these facilities, to ensure that affordable, accessible, and quality healthcare services are being rendered in line with the universal health coverage policy, of course, in line with the vision of His Excellency the Governor. And so a lot really, you know, has been achieved in the health sector, for which you will agree with me that both the demand side and the supply side. Now we have about 1 million enrollees. The question to ask is, the facilities, are there facilities in these healthcare centers, the personnel, etc., to be able to you know, provide the needed healthcare? You see, this is the area that His Excellency the Governor is really working towards, and this has linked credence to the revamping and equipping of a lot of primary healthcare centers, secondary facilities in the state, and of course the state-owned tertiary healthcare facility. In fact, apart from equipping them, you know, you can see a lot of facelifts per se. And I'm sure you witnessed the commissioning of the new Asaba Specialist, you know, hospital. If you were there, you will agree with me that it's a world-class 180-bed capacity facility. You know, you can only find that in the western part of the world. You need to go in there and see the facilities, from the oxygen plant to the neonatal units and on, even to the sickle cell center that was built and equipped by the O5 initiative being piloted by Her Excellency the wife of the Governor, Demidit Okowa. It's a world-class facility here in Asaba. You go there and see for yourself. If you go to the state-owned tertiary healthcare facility, you will agree with me that what we are seeing there is a flagship, you know, of the Governor Okowa-led administration. Massive construction work. There's, you know, 180 bedded space. There's also another 120 bedded space, another 220 bedded space, then another 80 bedded space, making it a 300, you know, bed capacity world class. You know, so if the reconstruction work of that facility is completed, you would come to the beggarly conclusion that we're going to have first of its kind, you know, in this country, and you are going to see referrals from different parts of the country to the state-owned tertiary, you know, healthcare, you know, facility. So His Excellency the Governor is a very organized, you know, person, a medical doctor who understands the dynamics, you know, of healthcare, and is doing so much towards ensuring that this administration is able to effectively guarantee quality, affordable, and accessible healthcare, you know, for the people. You see, one thing we must understand is that health is passionate, health is wealth, and health is personal. Let me tell you, no matter how benevolent a government order is, if the people are not healthy, they will not even think well to be able to comprehend the achievements, you know, of that administration and other sectors of the economy. And so the health of the individual is truly germane, you know, for any government order to be able to, you know, take, you know, the states to El Dorado. And so His Excellency the Governor is working tirelessly. Even in spite of the achievements, he still feels that yes, that enough, you know, it's not been done, because it's the only medical doctor today who is a governor in Nigeria, and that is an indication that the health indices of Delta State is on the spotlight. People want to see what is happening in Delta because of the status of His Excellency the Governor, and we are living up to it. I remember that when we hosted the National Health Council in Delta State here, you saw a lot that delegates could testify to the fact that a lot have been put on the ground in Delta State. We extended the tour beyond having delegates to unwind in Delta, and of course they went to their Asaba specialist hospital, and what they saw on the ground, they confirmed that they don't have it in their respective states, and so they gave due credence to the administration, the government led administration, etc. So a lot has really been put on the ground towards revamping the health sector, and a lot has been done. And I have a firm belief that by the time His Excellency the Governor is done by way of unveiling his strategy 100% as to what he has to do, offer in the health sector, to a large extent preponderance of Deltas would have access to healthcare, and he would have written his name in the sands of time.
Speaking of demand and supply of healthcare, a term that has become now prevalent in Delta State, not many people will agree with the supply side of this healthcare. You are the Senior Special Assistant to the Governor on Health Monitoring. What is being done to bring this supply side of the healthcare up to speed?
I agree. The supply side of healthcare is simple known to the demand side of healthcare. No doubt about that. And that's why I told you that the health sector is on a trajectory, and I haven't realized that once the demand is created, then of course there must be a supply side to be able to meet up with the demand for healthcare, and it's been addressed. Okay, I did mention the fact that a lot of primary healthcare centers have been rehabilitated and equipped, that is taking care of the supply side. I did mention that a lot of secondary facilities, including tertiary, I cited what had just happened at the Asaba Specialist Hospital, where you have a 180-bed capacity facility there, world-class capacity facility there. Of course, I did mention the 300-bed capacity state-owned teaching hospital in Ogara. The project is still ongoing. In no time it's going to be commissioned, and it's one of the flagships of the government led administration. That is taking care of the supply side. You will agree with me that there's been a lot of recruitment in the health sector. Doctors have been employed, pharmacists have been employed, other members of the healthcare delivery system such as optometrists, medical laboratory scientists, they are all being employed towards bridging the manpower deficit, as it were. Is also part of taking care of the supply side. Okay, so everything is working towards ensuring that the capacity of these healthcare facilities, really is enhanced to be able to meet up with the demand of healthcare created by reason of the increased number of enrollees, particularly in the formal sector plan, and of course in the equity plan, as it were. We are still doing our best to drive enrollment in the formal sector plan, and also we are doing our best by way of this continuous advocacy and sensitization, of course in partnership or in collaboration with the religious bodies, traditional institutions, etc., so as to be able to get their people to key into the health insurance, because it's one thing really, the best that can happen to the health of any nation, that you are creating a policy, a health policies whereby, and if an individual has a need for healthcare, such individual is not going to think of how much he's going to pay from his pocket to be able to access healthcare. That has been a barrier of affordability and accessibility of healthcare, and health insurance will help to take out these barriers, etc., so that with that pool of funding that informs the equity contribution both on the side of the individual. I'm talking about with respect to the formal sector now, the informal sector as well, and of course on the part of government. I'm sure you will understand what I mean, because for the civil state government workforce, that it was a lot more easier to get them captured because their data had already existed at the Hakabela arrangement. So what we did was to revalidate their data, etc., and of course the deduction that has been made by 1.75 of their gross total earning. That is really nothing for you to access healthcare. It's nothing to access healthcare. It's nothing compared to paying from your pocket, and state government is subsidizing by another 1.75. To be able to make up the equity contribution for accessing healthcare. And the same goes for the formal sector, etc. For the equity plan, they don't even pay a kobo. Pregnant women and children under the age of 5 access healthcare under the health insurance scheme of the state without paying 1 kobo from their pocket. But that does not mean somebody is not paying for the healthcare services that they access. Government is paying for the healthcare services they access, even though, they are not paying, but government is paying, So if you look at the whole of the indices, you'll agree with me that I think Delta State is top in terms of its health indices, etc. And due to the commitment of His Excellency the Governor, we intend to sustain the tempo towards ensuring that Delta State is top in terms of its health indices amongst other states of the Federation, including the FCT.
Delta State has 5 border states with its attendant settlement of people from these and other states, as well as its own diversity of resident indigenes. How magnanimous and equitable is the healthcare plan in Delta State?
No, I agree that, look, Delta State is a heterogeneous entity, no doubt about that. Look, during the course of my monitoring activities, I have had cause to crisscross the 25 local government areas with my team, okay, including the riverine communities. There was a time when we went to riverine communities sometime last year. We spent 5 days in the riverine communities, 5 days with my team, moving from one healthcare facility to the other, carrying out effective monitoring and evaluation of these facilities, for which we normally put our reports together and send to His Excellency the Governor. I will copy Ministry of Health and its agencies and commission for implementation, etc. So we moved around. Let me tell you, there is no healthcare facility. If you visit any healthcare facility, public healthcare facility in this state, and they tell you that they have not played a host to the Delta State Health Monitoring Team, I want you to, bring it up to us as a challenge. Bring it up to us as a challenge. There is no healthcare facility that we have not visited. This includes the primary healthcare centers, secondary facilities, and of course the state-owned tertiary healthcare facility, including the federal, tertiary healthcare facility, federal medical center, because of the interest we have there having to do with the accreditation that they have for primary healthcare service. We have gone around, including the riverine areas, etc. So it's not discriminatory. But one thing that really got me so elated was when we visited some of the healthcare facilities in the riverine community. The reception they gave to us, the reception. We were tempted to go with, heavy security arrangement. At a point, no, we discussed amongst ourselves, let's not go with security. Let's go, let these people accept us based on who we are. And we went in there without a single security, and they gave us red carpet reception. And during our exit meetings in the healthcare facilities, from Ogwejo down to Bulaha, down to Azama, Roto, etc. We went to all the healthcare facilities in the river communities. When we had exit meetings, they sat down and presented their challenges to us. And these challenges were captured in our reports, thereabout, for which we put together, informed our reports, on a quarterly basis, which we sent to His Excellency the Governor, and of course, copy Ministry of Health and share with other agencies and commission in Ministry of Health, for effective implementation. So I was elated by the reception that, we received, in the healthcare facilities in these riverine communities, and the fact that they sat down with us, articulated their challenges, etc. And they were happy that what we have done is an indication that the Governor Fanyato Kowa-led administration is passionate about their health and well-being. Because if you look at how difficult their terrain is, you can imagine, how worried they will be when they realize that government presence is not felt in their domain. So it really got me elated. And we have not, it's not that we went once. What we do is periodic. And for strategic reasons, our health monitoring, exercise is usually staggered and unpredicted. That suggested that no particular healthcare facility knows the time that we are coming for visitation. It's on the spot. They don't know. Because when they know, when we announce our visit, the aim will be defeated because they begin to do a sort of window dressing, etc. I want to see how things are in these facilities, and we report accordingly based on what we have seen on the ground. So for the fact that we have, recorded tremendous achievements towards revamping the health sector does not mean that there are no, few challenges here and there. But there are a few isolated cases of challenges that we're packaging, in form of the report that we send, etc. And they are receiving attention. Because His Excellency the Governor is somebody who really, because that is his primary constituency. He places special premium in the health sector. And so it's particular about what happens in the health sector. So if he gets such reports, he attends to it with dispatch. And so we have been getting results. So it can never be said that attention given to the healthcare delivery system or the healthcare system in the state is discriminatory. No, it's a balanced arrangement because, you know, different parts of the state receives attention in quick succession. If you look at the law establishing the Delta State Contributory Health Commission, it is mandatory for all residents of the state and not indigenous of the state. So if you are a non-indigenous and you are residing in Delta State, you should have access to health insurance.
Let's zero in on COVID-19. In Delta State, there was what looked like state of emergency. Borders were patrolled, and to a large extent, the state was on a lockdown. While other states were not locked down, what went into the mix in Delta State?
It is because of the governor, the type of governor that we have in Delta State. You see, Governor Ifeanyi Okowa is a political colossus who at every point in time feels the pulse of the people and knows when it's palpable. And so when we began the battle against COVID-19, that's in the early part of 2020, you know, so what he did was to adopt a holistic approach. He raised a team, you know, through the state government health workforce. And everyone was involved in that, you know, project. Everyone was corporately involved. He raised a team, segmented the team. You had the incidents team. You had the, you know, those involved in border surveillance, etc. You had the central, you know, COVID-19, you know, response team in the state, etc. Are you getting? You know, you have the surveillance officers and all that spread across the 25 local government areas in the state. I had the honor and privilege to man the borders. I was in charge of border health surveillance, where we set up COVID-19 protocols at the respective borders, etc. And on a weekly basis, I was crisscrossing the 13 borders between Delta and Anambra, that's at the Onitsha axis, between Delta and Edo at the Alifekede axis, Banki axis, at the Ologbo axis, etc. Okay, then Delta Bayelsa border at Patani. 13 borders between Edo and its neighboring states. I was going around to supervise activities of healthcare, you know, workers at the respective borders. We had our washing station wherein we compel visitors who were coming to the state to be subjected to washing station, etc. We were taking their data, recording their data, their name, telephone contact, their places of domicile. You know, this data really helped us, you know, with respect to contact tracing, because we're sharing this information with the surveillance officers, etc. So should there be any need for contact tracing, etc., to be a lot more easier, for it to be done. So we were doing all that. Even during the lockdown period and all that, we worked so tirelessly, day and night, under rain and sunshine, towards ensuring that we guarantee the safety of the people. And that was actually, you know, the vision of His Excellency the Governor, being able to guarantee the safety of all residents of Delta State in the wake of the, you know, COVID-19, you know, situation. And it's a governor that understands public health crisis of this nature, and so it was a lot more easier for him to deal with it. From when we recorded the first, that's the incident case, you know, of COVID-19, etc., we, you know, scaled up our activities. Towards ensuring that we guarantee, you know, safety of people, that till the time that the cases began to escalate, etc. And so we sustained what we were doing until we were able to flatten the curve. Delta was one of the first states in the country that was able to flatten the curve of COVID-19 without an attendant economic implication on the state. We are aware that at that point in time, that most states could not even pay salaries because of the economic implication of COVID-19. But the situation was different in Delta, because we probably have a governor that is a prudent financial manager. And so it's not as if Delta State was only able to pay salaries at that point, but salaries were being paid as and when due, even despite the huge economic implication of COVID-19. And so Delta State didn't really suffer because of the kind of governor that we have. And he was encouraging us. He was talking to the COVID-19 team on a regular basis, sharing ideas, you know, directing effectively as to how we're able to sustain the struggle until we're able to flatten the course of COVID-19. And, you know, it's there in the open glare of everybody in the country that Delta State, you know, came, we saw, we conquered as far as COVID-19 is concerned, because We have a governor that understands the dynamics of public health crisis, you know, of that nature. And so we achieved a lot, you know, when it comes to the COVID-19. And even up to now, we're not resting our hours. We're still doing our best in sensitizing. Now that the vaccines are out, the phase where we are is to really mobilize the people, you know, to take their vaccines. And that is the next round of advocacy and sensitization program that we are carrying out effectively, because there's been a lot of rejection of the vaccine by the people, including some educated person, just like the challenge we had at that time, wherein some educated people will tell you that COVID-19 was not real, that, you know, is a ploy by the government in order to access funds meant for public welfare, which is quite ridiculous. So we're probably having similar challenge. You know, I remember a friend of mine telling me at that point in time when we were advising them to adhere to the non-pharmaceutical intervention, wearing of face masks in public, regular hand washing, etc. And he said to me, please, they need a permanent cure so they can stop wearing masks everywhere, and a whole lot of them. Behold, when the cure came out a year after COVID-19 struck, and the same person came back to me to say the cure was too quick, and that the vaccines were too quick to come out. I say, were you expecting that scientists will fold their arms and watch COVID-19 kill millions of people without doing something about it? Scientists, virologists all over the world, they went into the laboratory. They were working day and night until they got the vaccine. And the vaccines came out precisely 1 year after the COVID-19, you know, fights, etc. And so people should take these vaccines. They're routine vaccine. You and I have had our OPV vaccines. That's the polio vaccines and all that. We have had the BCG vaccines, measles vaccines, etc. Routine vaccines when we were much younger. Routine. How can it be said that the vaccine is deployed to inject microchip into the human body for effective monitoring? Through a needle? Oh, come on. Let's not take this to a ridiculous extent. And I've had cause to, you know, address, you know, different forum wherein, you know, we're able to nip it in the bud, trying to encourage people, even at the international level, etc. I remember in October when I was in the United Kingdom, where I went for my conferment ceremony as a fellow of the Royal Society for Public Health, etc. We'll use that as a platform to drive this advocacy and, of course, carry out effective lobby for the West to bring in more vaccines to Africa, so as to avoid the emergence of different, you know, different strains, you know, of the virus and all that, so that we can avert a fourth wave, you know, of COVID-19 situation. The vaccine distribution to Africa has improved, but I think they need to ship in more vaccines. Because as we speak, as at October, just about 2% of the African population have been vaccinated. As at now, just about 7% of the African population have been vaccinated. That's a far cry from what is expected. If we have about 60% of Americans fully vaccinated, we'll have about 70% of you know, the UK population fully vaccinated. Israel had already attained herd immunity and all that. Why can't they assist Africa? No full well that we do not produce vaccines in Africa, but why stockpiling these vaccines? About 2 billion vaccines have been stockpiled in the West, and the vaccines are actually needed, you know, in the African, you know, population, etc. We are doing our best to encourage our population to accept the vaccine. So the vaccines should be made available, you know, for the people to take them. We don't stockpile well African countries do not have, because I keep saying it, that no matter how much the West tries its best towards, you know, protecting their people by way of helping their people, you know, gain access to the vaccines, take their vaccines, etc. If similar effort is not made towards making the vaccines available in Africa and driving the vaccination program in Africa, this different variant of this virus will come back to the West and haunt the West. We're in the era of multilateralism, wherein there's mass movement of people from the African region to the West and in turn from the West to the African region, etc. There is no amount of lockdown measure you can introduce that can help to protect the people if they are not vaccinated. And different variants of the COVID-19, you know, virus is on rampage amongst the unvaccinated population. And when you have different variants on rampage amongst the unvaccinated population, it becomes a threat even to the vaccinated population. As I think the only way we can get out of this is to make more vaccines available to Africa, help to drive the vaccination program in Africa. Because as far as COVID-19 is concerned, no one is safe until everybody is safe. In as much as we are in the era of multilateralism, globally, we should be able to match that with healthcare globalization. We should. If you are adopting a healthcare policy in the United States, for instance, or Europe, for instance, similar policy should be adopted in Africa. That is healthcare globalization. You know, so but I think that we will be able to surmount the challenge if we're able to receive more vaccines and, of course, get our people ready to, you know, take the vaccines, etc. Then, to a large extent, we'll be able to guarantee, you know, our protection against the virus. Nobody is safe until everybody is safe. A brilliant one, Doctor.
considering the variance that is noticeable today. Speaking of policy on vaccination, there was a frenzy recently on the compulsory vaccination of Deltans by the state government. What is the true story?
Yes, an effort was made by the government order in the state to ensuring that civil servants, live by example. You see, because let me tell you, my brother, you see, anyone who has succeeded in finding himself, okay, or who has succeeded in creating an opportunity for him to become a civil servant, by his own rights, is an opinion molder in his community, in his family units, in his church, etc. There are people who look up to you. And so we cannot be preaching this gospel and driving the vaccination program when the state government workforce is not encouraged to do so. It's difficult to, make it trickle down. It's pretty difficult. And so that's why it's a welcome development that the state government had to make it mandatory, for civil servants in the state to get vaccinated and show proof of vaccination, in their workplaces, etc. Just yesterday, the multi-purpose secretariat, which is the biggest in Nigeria, was commissioned, as part of the developmental strides of His Excellency Senator Dr. Fayana Tokwa, the governor of Delta State. And that secretariat is going to be housing 27 ministries. You can tell the number of persons who will be working there. And so it is important to ensure that civil servants, take their vaccines so as to protect themselves. So as to protect themselves against COVID-19. When you take your vaccine, it doesn't necessarily mean you'll not get the virus. You can get the virus, but the likelihood of the mutation of this virus, is less. The likelihood that you'll be hospitalized is less. And the chances that you will die is less. So these are the factors, these are the things we must consider. So take the vaccine, protect yourselves, and equally protect others. That is the whole essence of taking the vaccine. The vaccines are safe, they are efficacious, and they are available across the vaccination sites in the 25 local government areas in the state. So I'd like to seize this rare and privileged opportunity to call upon all residents of Delta State to get vaccinated. For those who have not been vaccinated, what more are you waiting for? You need to guarantee your safety and guarantee the safety of others. In as much as no one is safe until everybody is safe as far as COVID-19 is concerned. No one has a right to infect others with COVID-19.